Nike has not done one thing to promote her. We have not seen any commercials. We have not seen any ads. We have not seen any Caitlin Clark merchandise. And we for sure as hell have not seen any Caitlin Clark signature shoes.
A'ja Wilson, the reigning WNBA MVP, has been suspended for life after attempting to play the victim while sitting on a throne of privilege.
I don't understand this. Many of these people, like A'ja, are so used to being able to dispense and force white guilt upon others that when people don't comply, then it becomes something they can't even handle.
In a recent viral video, she criticized Caitlin Clark, claiming that white players like Paige Beckers need to recognize their privilege.
This NBA playoff ratings dip post Caitlin Clark is the sports version of white flight and gentrification. You hate it when they're here. You don't like their presence. Oh my God, look at what they're doing. They're so awful. Then when they leave, the Caitlin flight, oh my God, I can't, what do we do now?
Seriously? The only thing she seems to be leading the league in is making excuses.
And these players that are now complaining, if there are any, about the ratings, about being abandoned. Well, wait a minute. Many of you were the very same ones that was pointing the finger and saying you're racist and we don't want or need your support. So in theory, you're getting what you want and you should be happy for the lower ratings. So be careful what you wish for.
What kind of nerve does it take to live a life of luxury and then point fingers at other players complaining about their privileges?
Everything A'ja Wilson is saying is I probably tend to think it wasn't even on accident. Knew she was being recorded, knew it would get out there. And it was, because I think this was a year ago, and it's gone viral now this week. But to me, it was a message being sent to Caitlin Clark of like, you want to come into our league, this is how you need to be.
Seriously, A'ja, Caitlin Clark is out there earning her spot.
And I think it's a message to Nike. Again, as I talked about last week, based off the Ethan Strauss deal, A'ja Wilson has a signature shoe and logo with Nike. No one's going to buy her shoe. No one cares. But Nike's bending over backwards trying to please A'ja Wilson and Don Staley and the whole BLM crowd. We got to promote A'ja first.
A'ja Wilson wants everyone to believe she's battling against a harsh system of oppression, but let's be real, she went to a private school with a $20,000 tuition. While she sipped her fancy lattes in a privileged setting, Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Plum were out there working hard to make it to the top.
And so there's a mindset that A'ja has to adopt to justify getting treatment she knows she doesn't deserve.
A'ja, your life story isn't a tale of struggle, it's the definition of privilege. With your height of 6'5", a stable family background, and endless resources, it's hard to see how you can claim to be oppressed.
She doesn't play, she's the Tim Duncan of the WNBA. Hey, that's great. I love Tim Duncan, great player. Doesn't sell shoes, doesn't drive TV ratings. That's not what he does. That's who A'ja Wilson is.
Players like Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Plum didn't just stroll into the league because of their skin color. They earned their spots.
But she has to adopt this mindset of, I'm owed this, and you white girls need to back your ass up while I get what's owed to me. It's all just it's endless reparations.
But I guess recognizing their hard work doesn't fit into your victim narrative, does it?
A'ja Wilson has had the most difficult season of her career. She couldn't get the credit she deserved because Caitlin Clark showed up, and this is proof that her life is 10 times as hard as, to get the same credit. She's MVP of the league, I think, for the third time. She's won 2 championships. She's got a statue at the University of South Carolina. Have we not done enough to celebrate A'ja Wilson? Have you contributed to her life being 10 times as hard?
Now, let's talk about Jason Whitlock and his brutal takedown of A'ja Wilson. He really didn't hold back when addressing her comments about white privilege.
Well, I mean, look, I want to be a little sympathetic towards Miss Wilson. After all, for the first time in a long time, people were actually watching her play basketball. So that added stress of the much bigger audience certainly came into play.
This is the same A'ja Wilson who likely never had to deal with a broken heater in a locker room, yet she's out here lecturing others on struggle.
And then it just makes people just make excuses for why they don't get where they get. The other thing I think it does is it blinds them to reality, because Stephen A. Smith is like, oh, well, if we were white, we would have more money and we would. And I'm just like, okay, who are the most marketable sports stars in America, right? Shohei Ohtani is basically the modern Babe Ruth. Nobody knows who he is.
The irony is almost too much to bear. Whitlock really hit the nail on the head when he pointed out that A'ja Wilson is living in her own bubble of privilege while complaining about it.
I don't understand this line of thinking. I don't think it, as you said, it doesn't fit the day and age in which we're in. And then the other thing, and I think this is probably the worst thing, it engenders not just a sense of victimhood, but a sense of envy.
How can you say that with a straight face? And then there's the icing on the cake, her Nike deal. After all her talk about Caitlin Clark and white privilege, Nike decides to give A'ja a signature shoe deal.
Because you can never be thankful for where you are, because you're always saying, well, if I was only white, I would be even further.
Seriously? So let me get this straight. She throws shade at Clark, spins a dramatic narrative, and suddenly she's treated like royalty by Nike. It's just too much to believe.
Caitlin Clark got all but one Rookie of the Year vote. She will not have the distinction of being a unanimous Rookie of the Year. And a lot of people are celebrating that. They're excited. They stay strong, whoever it was that, kept it real and blah, blah, and denied her that distinction.
Nike had a golden opportunity to cash in with Caitlin Clark, the real superstar who has everyone glued to their screens. Instead, they chose to support someone who's stuck in a victim narrative, while Caitlin is literally carrying the WNBA on her back.
Is it a big, I would tend to think Caitlin Clark doesn't care, but she probably does care a little bit. If I was 22 and I would want to be in that elite class of Aaliyah Boston. Again, I can't, I've already named the names and I can't name the one girl's name because I don't really care or know what her name is.
Elena Delle Donne?
There it is, Elena Delle Donne. There you go, thank you, Delano. Those are the people that have been unanimous Rookie of the Years.
Caitlin's record-breaking performances, draining threes from half court like it's nothing, stand in stark contrast to A'ja, who seems more focused on complaining about white privilege and twisting the narrative. Watching A'ja try to stay relevant while fans flock to Caitlin is almost comical.
I think it's a little deal because ultimately when you tick off the accomplishments of the greats, no one, it'll be, okay, this person won 4 or 5 or 6 MVPs, and no one says, well, these 4 were unanimous and the other 2 were not. I think this is a big deal for Caitlin Clark, not because, it may hurt her feelings, but because this goes exactly to the point we're talking about. Victimhood is a extremely seductive siren and an extremely addictive drug.
Caitlin's fan base isn't just a bunch of white supporters. She's earned respect from fans of all backgrounds, including a huge number of black fans who recognize her as a true game changer. A'ja is over there clutching her pearls, trying to keep up while throwing out every excuse she can think of. Meanwhile, Caitlin keeps pushing the limits of women's basketball. It's like watching a marathon runner get lapped by a sprinter. A'ja is still gasping for air while Caitlin is already at the finish line celebrating. A'ja's attempts to bring Caitlin down are not just sad, they're downright pathetic. Every time she rants about privilege, she only exposes her own insecurities. She's trying to play the victim, but it's clear.
And if Caitlin Clark does not watch it, some of her backers, right? I saw a guy who, online, a conservative that I know, I think I've met him in person, when she got fouled hard early in the season, was like, we should check to see if there are hate crime laws in that state. And I said, come on, guys. And if she's not careful, there will be people in her ear that say you should make yourself look like a victim in the same way that these other people do. And I think that would be the worst thing for her.
She's just scared of being overshadowed. A'ja, you already are. Caitlin's legacy is already established, and every time you try to bring her down, you only make yourself look smaller.
Us as black women, Paige reminds me a lot of you. Like, you say you're not really about me. And she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point. And also, like, she's good at basketball, obviously. But, like, she understands her privilege. It's like what pushes her over the top, in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you. And I mean, that's a compliment.
She's the player that kids will admire, the one who draws fans to watch.
And I'm going to mention this again. one of the more interesting aspects of this fanhood is that some of the biggest supporters of Caitlin Clark are not whites. They're actually black males. So that has become something that for them, that word, problematic. And it's also sort of a cultural debate on the other side of the street. But that's the issue, though.
While you think you're crafting a narrative, all you're really doing is building a wall between yourself and reality.
And I don't think America already has too many victims. I don't think she needs to add her name to that list.
So while Nike tries to push A'ja Wilson's shoes on everyone, believing they found the next big star, the truth is they're backing the wrong horse. Caitlin is the real deal, the true story, and while A'ja clings to her victim mentality, Caitlin is out there dominating the game. Nike seems to be so focused on promoting A'ja Wilson as the face of the WNBA that they're completely overlooking the real star, Caitlin Clark. Viewers want to see talent, not drama, and this approach isn't just a marketing misstep, it's downright embarrassing. The gap between A'ja's self-proclaimed struggles and the reality of Caitlin's success on the court is shocking. But hey, keep pushing that narrative, A'ja, because it's clearly benefiting everyone but you. While A'ja is busy complaining and stirring up drama to stay relevant, Caitlin Clark is out there breaking records and making history. Caitlin is attracting huge audiences that A'ja can only dream about. For instance, Caitlin's games have drawn in 1.8 million viewers, while A'ja's barely hit 900,000. The numbers speak for themselves, and they definitely don't favor you, A'ja. So while you're ranting about privilege, Caitlin is showing everyone why she's the real star that fans want to watch. Here's a piece of advice. Take a good look in the mirror before you start lecturing others about privilege. You're enjoying every opportunity that comes with your skills and status, yet you act like the world is against you. It's almost laughable. People aren't rolling their eyes at your struggles because they don't understand. They see right through your act. Maybe it's time to focus on showcasing your talent instead of sticking to that tired narrative.
W thinks that they don't have to pay us more in order for us to be here. And I think I didn't express that when I first talked about prioritization,
This could lead to a wave of talent moving overseas as they seek better opportunities.
It's going to be nice, though, I think, getting out of the spotlight and just getting to live my life and do things that I want to do and, not have to sit and I love talking to all of you, but it's going to be nice to not have to sit in front of a microphone, multiple times a week. I really appreciate all of you, but it will be nice to kind of get away and relax for a little bit. And I appreciate everything you all do as well, so I thank you.
What does this mean for the WNBA?
With the WNBA season ending for many teams, there are already so many players heading overseas to play during the off season. But with all of the drama currently surrounding the WNBA, on top of the low-paying salaries, some of these players are questioning if they'll even return.
It's not just about losing one player. It could signal a larger trend of talent leaving the league.
Our commissioner talked about us being able to, make 700,000. That's not true at all. There's not one player who makes that.
Clark's choice is prompting everyone to examine the situation closely. Are players really being compensated fairly?
And we were promised, team marketing agreements and league marketing agreements, but they've fallen quite short. So it's still not enough for us international players to want to stay here. And that's a choice of the players. If I make a choice to make more money and whatever, and then...
This raises important questions about the league's future and how it values its athletes.
Teams are mad that I don't come back, but that's how it is. So yes, it just, the WNBA, if you want us to be here, you have to pay us more. It's business, it's how it works, and that's all that means.
Can you believe what's going on in women's basketball right now? Caitlin Clark's exit is shaking up the WNBA like never before.
Here's all you need to know about Caitlin Clark. When we would go to away games, they always sold out. Unbelievable. So Atlanta would normally have 3,000, 4,000 people. Now they have 17,000 people, and they sold 1,000 standing room only tickets.
We've seen the incredible effects she had on viewership, ticket sales, and merchandise.
So when we walked into the arena, people were on that third balcony looking down at the tops of our players' heads to watch.
Now, her departure is revealing some serious problems within the league.
It's really hard to take in. After a few away games, in all of the sellouts, Caitlin asked the WNBA if they would pay spot bonuses to the away team players.
This isn't just about one player moving on. It's about the future of women's basketball.
She said, wow, we're making all this new revenue, and I would like the away team to benefit from that. Could they get a spot bonus? So that's the heart of Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark's choice could be the catalyst for meaningful change.
I want to focus on the ladies of the WNBA for a second. and a long overdue milestone for that league. The WNBA announced yesterday they plan to commit $50 million over the next 2 seasons so players can fly uncharted planes. The league faced backlash on social media when Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark and the team was seen walking through a Dallas airport headed to a commercial flight. The move addresses years of safety concerns for the league and their players.
Improved pay, fairer treatment, and a new chapter for the sport.
You just have bad days, and there's days where you don't want to talk to anyone, but somebody comes up to you and this is their 10-second interaction with you, so you better smile and be kind. But at the same time, it's just like you just want to be normal sometimes.
This is not the same as what it was.
The WNBA now has the opportunity to respond.
I'm going to say this on behalf of Caitlin Clark. I need any females out there who are fans of the WNBA, who are fans of WNBA players, who are critical of Caitlin Clark in any way to stand down. Chill out. You need to hug that girl when you see her. You need to embrace her. You need to compete like hell to go up against her, take her down on the basketball court. That's fine, which I believe the Diana Taurasi's and the Asia Wilsons and others of the world will gladly do.
What they decide to do next could reshape women's basketball for years to come.
But what you don't need to do is look at this girl with a speck of resentment when it comes to what she's doing for the WNBA.
The WNBA is in a frenzy after Caitlin Clark announced she's leaving the U.S. for Europe, and now everyone seems to be panicking as if it's the end of the world.
And it's not to say we're not going to continue to combat these things. That'll always exist, I think, in the fabric of our league, but we still aren't talking about basketball.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, it might be too late. Neither the fans nor Caitlin herself seem to care anymore.
Hardest part about being Caitlin Clark, I would say, having to feel like you're always like on.
We came from Wisconsin.
That is fun.
Ready?
Oh my gosh.
Caitlin Clark put in tremendous effort for this team, created a huge fan following, boosted marketing sales like never before, and brought more excitement to the league than it has ever experienced.
Because over 800,000 people watch that, which means there's an audience out there that wants to see Angel Reese too. What the hell is up with the WNBA? How do you let that happen? How do you let it so Caitlin Clark could be seen and Angel Reese nor anybody else could be seen? What the hell is that about? Different subject for another day.
Fans often comment on videos saying they only watched because of her. That's why the WNBA executives are finally realizing the harsh truth. Their empire is crumbling.
Now she's a pro. So she just got deals. Plus she's getting a salary. She is box office, y'all. And it's not about the fact that y'all are not. That's not the subject for today. The subject for today is how Caitlin Clark got stuff going on for herself.
The WNBA is now in full-blown panic mode because Caitlin Clark was their biggest draw and pretty much the sole reason fans tuned in.
But in her very first press conference, she brought up the fact that they had to fly commercial, and the next damn day, $50 million was committed to the players. Who do you think has something to do with that? It's Caitlin Clark. She could have been selfish. She was selfless. She could have been all about herself. She was about everybody.
Calling her the league's golden goose doesn't even begin to cover it. She was essentially their entire source of revenue.
The WNBA was preceded by the NCAA. Remember that girl that took a video years ago where the men had this big-ass weight room, or was it USA? I don't know if it was NCAA or USA Basketball, but the men had this big weight room area facility designated for them, and the women just had one little room with one piece of dumbbells. What the hell was that? And it was videotaped. It was egregious. It was embarrassing.
When Clark took the court for her regular season finale against the Washington Mystics, it wasn't just another game. It was the highlight of the season. That night, more than 2,711 fans filled the stadium, setting a new attendance record for a single WNBA game.
Caitlin Clark just yesterday was named the Rookie of the Year of the Women's National Basketball Association, and that is no surprise whatsoever, of course. We all saw that coming. But what we didn't necessarily see coming is that she was not a unanimous selection.
No one, especially not a rookie, had ever attracted crowds like this before.
67 votes cast for Rookie of the Year in the WNBA, and Caitlin Clark received 66 of those votes, leaving one outlier voter who voted for Angel Reese, which is absolutely ridiculous.
In fact, she was bringing in over 15,000 fans per game during her first season. Caitlin Clark's impact on the WNBA was nothing short of revolutionary.